But today we're diving into why Americans just don't walk, and if that's ever going to change. But before we get started, do me a favor, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe. Don't worry, you wouldn't even have to leave your couch to do it. Alright, let's hit the road. Literally. If you ever feel like America was designed for cars, not humans, well, you're absolutely right. It wasn't always this way. At one point, American cities were just like everywhere else, walkable, compact, built for people. But then, something happened. Something that changed everything. And that something was the car. Unlike older cities in Europe or Asia, most of America was built with one thing in mind: cars. After World War II, the US went all in on highways, sprawling suburbs, and massive parking lots. Walking? That became optional. In some places, impossible. Before cars, pre-1900s, American cities were compact. People walked, rode horses, or used streetcars. Post-World War II boom, 1950s to 1960s, the government subsidized highways, housing developments, and auto manufacturing like crazy. The Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956 was the nail in the coffin for walkable cities. Before the 1950s, streetcars and trains were common in US cities, but many public transit systems were dismantled. Some claim oil and auto companies helped make that happen. By the 1960s, walking wasn't just inconvenient, it was practically discouraged. Cities were redesigned, businesses moved into strip malls, and suddenly everything revolved around driving. Ever try walking in a modern American suburb? Here's what happens. You realize your destination is 1 mile away. I can totally walk that. You step outside and see no sidewalks, just grass ditches and 6 lanes of traffic. You decide to walk anyway. Cars pass by and drivers give you that "do you need help" look. You reach their intersection, but there's no crosswalk. You wait for traffic to clear for what feels like an eternity. You finally make it out, only to realize there's no pedestrian entrance to the building, just a giant parking lot. At that point, you accept defeat and promise yourself you'll drive next time. And that's how suburban America turns every pedestrian into a driver. And let's talk about distance. In Europe, you walk out of your front door and the bakery is a block away. In America, your local grocery store is a 10-minute drive. You want to grab a coffee? You guessed it, drive again. In Paris, Rome, or Tokyo, you can live your entire life without needing a car. In Dallas or Phoenix, if you don't have a car, good luck. In most of the world, grabbing a coffee means walking to a cafe on the corner. In America, it means getting in your car, pulling into drive-thru, and getting a coffee handed to you through a window. It's so bad that in some parts of America, if you walk somewhere, people assume something's wrong. In a lot of cities, if you're on foot, people think either you're a tourist, your car broke down, or you're homeless. Walking is just unusual. It's suspicious. And that's just the beginning. Next, let's talk about another major reason Americans don't walk: our love affair with massive parking lots. America has 8 parking spaces for every car. That's right, cars get more real estate than people. Ever notice on America, businesses don't just have parking lots, they have football field-sized parking lots, even for stores that don't need them. Meanwhile, in Japan, some parking spaces are literally stacked on top of each other because land is so valuable. But here, forget about efficient land use. We got unlimited space, baby. Except we don't. And those parking lots are a big reason why cities are so spread out and unwalkable. Alright, so we covered how cars dominate American cities, how public transportation is basically an afterthought. But what really killed walking in America? One word: suburbia. In most of the world, cities grew before cars, but in America, a lot of cities and almost all suburbs were designed after cars became the norm, and that changed everything. Cities were dense, walkable, and designed around town squares, public markets, and transit hubs. People lived above their workplaces, bakeries were down the street, and the concept of commute barely existed. And after cars, entered the suburb, and a revolutionary but car-dependent way of living. Instead of growing outward organically, cities sprawled outward by design, thanks to policies that made suburban expansion the default. So how did we get here? 3 key things: GI Bill and post-World War II housing boom. After World War II, millions of soldiers came home, ready to start families, and the government had a plan to help them. A little thing called the GI Bill. GI Bill made it easier than ever to buy a home, but not in the city. Cities were considered overcrowded, industrial, and dirty. The new ideal? The white picket fence dream of suburbia. And just like that, suburban home ownership skyrocketed. Between 1945 and 1960, suburban population doubled. The American dream was no longer about a house, it was about a house with a driveway. But if you can't have suburbs without roads, and America wasn't just building roads, we were building the biggest highway system in the world. The Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956, signed by President Eisenhower, pumped billions into highway construction. The idea: make it easy for people to live in suburbs while commuting to cities for work. In reality, the more highways were built, the more cities sprawled outward, making driving more necessary, not less. We didn't just add roads, we built entire cities around roads. Instead of designing walkable spaces, we designed car-dependent networks where walking was never an option. Ever notice how American neighborhoods don't have corner stores, no bakeries, no cafes, just miles of houses? Need milk? Gotta drive. Need coffee? Drive. The culprit? Zoning laws. Unlike most of the world, U.S. zoning laws enforce single-use zoning. That meant residential areas only contained houses, and businesses they go somewhere else, usually across 6-lane road in a shopping plaza. In contrast, European and Asian cities favor mixed-use zoning, where homes, cafes, and offices share the same block. In America, instead of walkable communities where you live, work, and shop in the same neighborhood, you get endless suburban streets leading to strip malls, fast food drive-thrus, and of course, more parking lots. Let's talk about another thing suburbia brought us, the never-ending parking lot. America has 8 parking spaces per car. That's not a joke. Even small businesses overbuild parking because city require them to. Instead of walkable town centers, we get massive asphalt deserts. Compare that to Europe, where finding parking is an Olympic sport. American suburbs, on the other hand, you can land a plane in some of these parking lots. But suburbia didn't just kill walking, it also made driving the only realistic way to get around. And that has some interesting consequences. US doesn't just have high car ownership, it has mandatory car ownership. Unlike Europe, where public transit is reliable, many Americans have no other option. The average American household spends $10,000 per year on car-related expenses. That's gas, insurance, maintenance, and if your car breaks down, now you're stranded. America's car dependency skyrockets emissions, more driving, more traffic, more pollution, and more urban sprawl. Basically, the US produces twice as much carbon per capita as Europe, partly because we literally can't walk anywhere. Fun fact, in the 1950s, Americans were promised highway would reduce traffic. Reality, they made it worse. Why? More highways, more cars. It's called induced demand. If you build bigger roads, more people drive. Ever been stuck in traffic on a highway and thought, wait, wasn't this thing built to solve traffic? Yeah, me too. So, now we know how suburbia killed walking. The real question is, can we fix it? Some cities are trying to reverse sprawl by adding public transit, bike lanes, and pedestrian-friendly areas. Younger generations prefer walkable communities. We could shift city planning, but suburbia isn't disappearing anytime soon. The bad news? Undoing decades of car-first planning isn't easy. The US is still overwhelmingly built for cars, and most Americans aren't ditching their vehicles anytime soon. But the good news? Some places are making progress. And that's what we're diving into next, because car culture isn't just about convenience anymore. In America, driving is an identity. In most countries, a car is just a tool, a way to get from point A to point B. But in America, cars are freedom, their status, their personality. People name their cars, some even treat them better than their own relatives. In Japan, a car is just a means of transport. In Germany, a car is an engineering masterpiece. In America, a car is who you are. We just don't drive, we worship our cars. They're our music, movies, and our culture. Think about it. How many iconic American films involve cars? Fast and Furious, Gone in 60 Seconds, Mad Max, even Pixar made a whole franchise about talking cars. And it's not just about having a car, it's what you drive. Because in America, your car says everything about you. Don't believe me? Here's a breakdown. Truck guys, live to pick up, American flag sticker, probably owns a grill that costs more than your rent. Muscle car guys, 700 horsepower, never takes to the track, somehow always broke. Tesla people, loves Elon Musk a little too much, judges you for not having an EV. Minivan parents, always 10 minutes late, snacks in every seat, definitely listen to a podcast. Beater car drivers, car is 20 years old, check engine light is a permanent feature, still thinks it's just getting started. And here's the thing, every one of these drivers think they're better than you. Truck guys think they own the road, Tesla people think they're saving the planet, and minivan parents, they're judging everyone. The pickup truck paradox. You ever notice in America people drive massive pickup trucks just to go buy groceries? Meanwhile in Europe, a family of 4 is out there squeezing into a tiny hatchback like it's a clown car. American truck owners, 90% of them never towed anything in their life. European car owners somehow fit an entire apartment's worth of furniture into a compact Renault. Fun fact, the best-selling vehicle in America isn't a sedan or SUV, it's a Ford F-150 pickup truck. Not because everyone's hauling equipment, but because people just like driving big trucks. It's almost like we have this deep-rooted fear of not having enough vehicle. Like, what if I suddenly need to tow a boat I don't own, or haul 2,000 pounds of lumber for no reason? Better buy a truck, just in case. We love our cars so much that we don't even question why we drive everywhere. Road trips, essential. Drive-thrus, a way of life. Even places that make no sense for driving, like Las Vegas, have car traffic. Banks, drive-thru. Pharmacies, drive-thru. Liquor stores, drive-thru. Yeah, really. Weddings, Vegas has drive-thru chapels. And if you're interested more about drive-thrus, I did a whole video on that, link it above. Only in America can you buy a double cheeseburger, deposit a check, or pick up a prescription meds without even leaving your car. At this point, we're basically one step away from drive-thru dentist appointments. And let's be real, our cities are built for this. Everything is spaced out. There's nowhere to walk, and parking lots are bigger than buildings they serve. So why wouldn't we just stay in the car? And speaking of never leaving your cars, let's talk about road trips. Because in America, there's no greater symbol of freedom than hitting the open road. Route 66 nostalgia, even though half of it doesn't exist anymore. The great American road trip fantasy. Drive cross country, see the sights, find yourself. Reality, 12-hour drive where your legs go numb and you eat nothing but gas station snacks. Every American dreams of doing a big cross-country road trip at least once. Europeans, they just take a train. But for us, driving is an adventure, the long, exhausting, overpriced adventure. But here's the question, is America too obsessed with cars? And more importantly, is it ever going to change? Building bigger highways doesn't fix traffic, it makes it worse. Induced demand strikes again. Americans spend 97 hours per year stuck in traffic. That's 4 full days of your life gone. Meanwhile, countries like Japan and Switzerland rely on high-speed trains, while Americans are out here spending half of the work week in a standstill on I-95. Public transport, cheap but unreliable in most places. Owning a car is basically a second rent payment, and yet we keep buying bigger cars. If your car breaks down, hope you have savings, because the tow truck is coming for your wallet. US produces twice as much CO2 per capita as Europe, thanks in part to our car dependency. Most cities don't have bike lanes, pedestrian zones, or reliable transit, so even if you wanted to reduce driving, you can't. Meanwhile, European cities are banning cars from downtown areas. In America, we're still adding more parking lots. So, the big question, will America ever become less car dependent? A couple of cities, they're doing walkability projects like Minneapolis, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., or specific initiatives like 15-minute cities. Also, some cities are becoming more walkable. New York, Portland, and Austin also making progress. Younger generations prefer walkable communities and public transport over car ownerships. More Americans are embracing biking and ride sharing instead of driving everywhere. The bad news, U.S. still overwhelmingly built for cars. Decades of highway expansion, suburban sprawl, and zoning laws won't change overnight. Plus, let's be real, most Americans love their cars. We're not giving them up without a fight. But the good news, the conversation is changing. More cities are investing in transit. More people are questioning our car dependency. Just maybe, we won't have to drive everywhere forever. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think America will ever break its obsession with cars, or are we just doomed to drive forever? Drop a comment and let's talk about it. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out my last episodes, Why American Trains Sucks. Because, trust me, this problem goes way beyond just cars. Until next time, whether you're walking, biking, more likely driving, stay safe out there.